Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Good to have you here as always. So this week I'm bringing you something completely different, a little interview. I got an email a few weeks back from a guy who said I was the drummer of a white power skinhead band and I knew the band. And as I read through the email, I realized that he was telling me all about his life story, and that it included his recovery from drug and alcohol addiction, and about how so much of that addiction stemmed from that part of his life. I thought, well, this guy sounds pretty interesting. He'll have a few good stories. Let's get it happening. And so we did. Here's the results, and it was wild. Many great stories, many wild stories, some that you probably won't believe, but it truly happened. And most of all, an amazing story of redemption. So here it is, part one, interview with the drummer from a white power skinhead band. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for being here, man. Really appreciate it. I will let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, man. My name is Tommy. I am in recovery right now. I'm a recovering addict, recovering alcoholic. I was involved in the white nationalist skinhead scene for, I don't know, probably, I'll just estimate around 15 years or so. I played in quite a few bands. I played on studio albums. I was the drummer for Final War, wrote a couple songs for Final War. Whatever it takes, victory or death. I was the drummer vocalist for Warfare 88. Hey, punk, and then I played on a couple other kind of side project bands like Cutthroat and The Old Souls. And then live, I was the fill-in drummer live for, I played with Max Exist a few times. I played with the Bully Boys a few times, one time in Europe. Let's see, I tried to play one time with Aggravated Assault in Barstow, California, but it didn't work out so well.
Okay.
I tried to play, I was going to play one live set with the Midtown Boot Boys in Florida, and I don't know. I think I didn't learn the songs, and that one didn't end up well either because I didn't know the songs well. After those skinhead bands, I played in a couple like local like thrash bands and punk rock bands in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, and then I'll let them remain nameless, but I was affiliated with one organization, and then and a couple of the local crews in Southern California.
Okay, cool, man. Cool. So you're 15 years, you're around a lot of the different organizations, a lot of different people. So, you were pretty immersed in the whole movement. You weren't just like sitting in the background. I mean, you were part of different bands and everything. So it's pretty huge in the scene. So how did you first get involved with them? How did you meet the skinheads?
Sure. And I'll just preface this by saying, like, I was never a tough guy or anything.
Sure.
I thought I was. I wanted that representation of me being a tough guy, but dude, I wasn't tough at all, bro.
I see. Yeah, sure.
And I wasn't like any kind of like high-ranking member of the scene or anything like that. I played in a lot of bands, and so playing in bands, it kind of got me to meet a lot of people and have a lot of connections and that sort of thing. And the question was, how did I get into it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah.
Okay. Like a lot of people in like the movement and stuff, I come from a family of, it was dysfunctional. There was some dysfunction there. My childhood had, some instances of abuse, lots of trauma in my childhood, in that upbringing. And then also one of the things that really got to me, I think it was a large catalyst for me being involved with that, was I went to a lot of schools. My dad moved around a lot, and so I went to all these schools, and I was always wearing my older brother's hand-me-downs. I was like the poor new kid at school, and so I got bullied quite a bit. I got in a lot of fights at a young age, and then and so, yeah, I think by the time I was a freshman, I dropped out after my freshman year. By the time I was a freshman, I had already been to like 16 schools or something like that. And so I hit 14, 15, and I'm off and running. I was finding drugs. I find alcohol, and I find my little crew of like other kids who were new kids or who were, you know, they were kind of like the dreads of school, and they were kind of my crew.
The outcasts.
Yeah, we're kind of the outcast, you know, of this city in Orange County called Costa Mesa I was in.
Sure.
And so, you know, we listened to punk rock, heavy metal, and stuff like that. We were trying to kind of find our identity. It's kind of a little stereotypical. I don't want to stereotype it too much, but we were this crew of white disenfranchised kids, man. And then we'd meet, you know, a skinhead here or there at like punk shows and stuff like that.
Sure.
And then we'd meet a couple more here and there. And then it was right around that time, too, that frickin' Romper Stomper came out. And I remember, dude, me and like my little teenage crew of like, you know, like druggy punk rockers who watched Romper Stomper were like, hey, that's kind of cool, right? And it was right around that same time too that I bought my first cassette at this record store, and you can Google it. I Googled it the other day, and I was able to find it. It was a bootleg cassette, which is going to show my age here, but it was called Screwdriver Echoes of the Reich. Dude, I would play the heck out of this cassette tape, man, and you could barely hear it. Like the recording was terrible, it was all staticky, but I could hear like "Tomorrow Belongs to Me" like barely, and I was like, yes, this is what I want, you know what I mean? And I felt the vibe of that Screwdriver cassette, as stereotypical as that is. And so, you know, we watched Romper Stomper, and then we met a couple more skinheads, like more older guys, you know, a couple guys that got out of prison and stuff like that.
Right.
So we started developing into that. And, you know, eventually I kind of went full bore into it, was hanging out with some guys. Eventually, I was like 19. 1997, I got shot in the kneecap. And then a few months later, I went to the Warped Tour in Carson, California in 1997.
Wow.
And I got some dude stab me in the head, and it was just a scene. So
Wow,
I was this
wow.
young kid, and you know, just getting into trouble, man. And so that's kind of what got me. You know, I just kind of like progressed into, you know, full-fledged skinhead dude. And by the time I was like 19, I had, you know, a big old schwaz on my back, and I had, you know, Skinhead and Old English on my stomach. Started getting all the tattoos and stuff like that.
Sure,
so,
man. From a lot of those violent incidents and, you know, being part of that, that pushed you further deeper into the whole movement, yeah?
100%.
Yeah.
It's like the more you know, what's the word? Is it ingratiate? I don't know.
Yeah.
Ingratiate yourself into it. Like, you know, it's like, you know, we're humans and we can manifest stuff, you know, and so like the more you start manifesting, you know, that life, the more it's gonna bring you into the fold and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I own it. Like nobody peer pressured me into it. Like you know, it was my own doing.
Sure.
And probably the biggest part of me, the biggest thing for me in that was I was already a full-blown drug addict by that time. So
Wow.
I was using a lot of drugs.
At that time, I mean, a lot of the skinheads were using drugs, yeah? It was like mostly meth and crank and weed and stuff like that, or?
Pretty much everything, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
At the time, it wasn't called meth yet. We called it speed. And it was like, you know, we get it from like the bikers in the high desert and
Sure,
stuff like that.
yeah.
So we'd be getting, you know, speed. There was quite a bit of coke. Weed, you know, of course, was always there. Alcohol, always there.
Yeah.
I did a lot of acid as a teenager.
Right.
I got some funny stories about that.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's kind of basically anything that we could get our hands on.
So into your 20s, you know, you started really immersing yourself into the whole skinhead scene and culture from that. And you became involved with the bands. How did that come about? Were you a musician before you got into it, or?
Yeah, so most of my family is musicians, drummers and guitarists and stuff like that. So I always kind of had the gene or whatever. And I had dabbled in drums, you know, a couple times I would play drums at friends' houses. And so how I got into music, it was right around 1998. I was about 20 years old. Me and my girlfriend at the time, who I'm still friends with, we were living in a garage. And so... And I was trying to get off drugs. I was like, I'm done with drugs, because I was doing, I was doing a lot of speed stuff, and so she wanted to get off drugs too and stuff like that. So we decided to quit, and then for whatever reason, I had it in me to make these like racial white power zines, and I had, the internet had just come out. It's gonna make me sound old again, but the internet just come out, recently, and so I was able to cut and paste all these like flyers, those old war flyers and stuff. So I made these zines, and I passed them to different record stores in town. I had a new P.O. box made for Orange County Independent Skins, it was called. And nobody ever wrote me except one person. And that was the catalyst for me finding bands. So this guy wrote me back on my P.O. box and was like, hey, man, I'm the Skinhead too. We should meet up. And I was like, cool. So I started hanging out with him and met his friends. And these guys were more of the political, don't do drugs, kind of that faction, as, less drugs and kind of gangster, but more political oriented. And so me and my girlfriend started hanging out with these guys, and a couple of these guys knew some musicians. And the guy that wrote my P.O. box, he ended up being the first guitarist for Warfare 88, and we started a band. We played a couple shows. One was in the desert, and then another one was in Orange County that got raided by the gang task force or something. And so I played a couple shows with Warfare 88, the three-piece band, and then it was in later on that year that I played a show with Warfare 88 in Las Vegas, and that's where I met the singer of Final War. And, and I think I actually met him inside of a liquor store, which is pretty apropos.
Yeah.
I meet and he ended up becoming a really good friend of mine, and so I meet the singer of Final War, and then he starts playing with Warfare 88 a few times. We end up recording the first Warfare 88 demo, which we did the vocals in my bathroom. Super punk rock, bro.
Right? Yeah. Absolutely.
and so then after we did that Warfare 88 demo, me and the Final War vocalist met a couple other guys who played in some more old school Orange County bands like Extreme Hatred and Youngblood, and then we had them come into our band, and we started forming Final War, and we started playing, and it was one of those deals, man, where we kind of knew it was like, dude, this is kind of a cool band, and it was super fun to play, man. And then we started playing all these shows in Orange County, and we played like Nordic Fest 2001 in the middle of the woods in Kentucky.
Yeah, wow.
Just a fucking shit show, bro.
I can imagine a whole bunch of drunken fucking skinheads in the woods of Kentucky. Fucking little wooden stage, a little bit of a riser, That's
dude, it was, man. I got a couple hilarious stories, man. Like, real quick, man. When they picked us up, when the IKA picked us up in the Nashville airport, they picked up Final War to take us to the grounds of Nordic Fest. They came walking up, and they had like camouflage pants on. One pant leg was tucked into the combat boot. One pant leg was over the combat boot. They were like, and we're all wearing like Orange County, like Dickies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're like, it was like culture shock, bro. So, and then we played Nordic Fest, and then, we played a couple like different SoCal shows, and then I filled in for Brutal Attack, and I think it was 2001. They played in Orange County, and then Final War ended up, we played Europe a few times, and then our last gig was actually that Australian gig.
That was your last gig, was it?
That was our last gig we played, yep.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, because I think, and there was no like, it was like amicable or whatever, like basically I stayed living in Minnesota, and the other guys were living in California, so it was just kind of a geographical thing. So that's when I kind of went off and I played in like a thrash band, and I started playing a couple of gigs, like live gigs with the Bully Boys.
What was the wildest experience you had playing?
We were playing a show in Italy, in northern Italy, and then we had one of the nights where we weren't playing a show, we were just all hanging out. Our hosts there, these Italian skinheads, they're like, hey, we know this punk rock bar that you could play at and stuff like that, or no, that you could just come hang out. And they played Ramones and punk rock. We could just drink beers. So we're like, yeah, man, let's do that. So we go to this punk rock bar, and we're hanging out drinking. And then our host comes up to us, and he's like, hey, man, the Milano, they want you to play a show in their clubhouse right now. You guys
Damn.
want to play? And we were like, you know, we were all wasted at a bar, and we were like, yeah, fuck it, we'll play. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fuck yeah, man.
We'll play anywhere, bro. You
Yeah.
know? And so we get in this car, and like the dude tells us, he's like, yeah, man, like their clubhouse, like taxis don't even come here because people have ended up never coming back from the club. I don't know.
Sure, man.
So, that's just what he was telling us. We're like, yeah, man, and we go to this clubhouse, and these guys are super cool, but they said they had equipment, but the equipment was like a little kid's busted up drum kit that was all like
No way.
and then they duct tape a microphone to a broomstick for the singer, and then I don't know, the guitarist had something. It was real like it wasn't even punk rock, bro. It was just like, and then afterwards we were sitting there, me and the Final War singer, and we're sitting there, you know, and you know, the president or one of the ranking dudes comes up to us in a thick Italian accent. He's like, hey, so I like you guys. You played a good show. Now I have one thing to say to you. And we're like, what's that, man? He goes, get the fuck out of my clubhouse.
Shit.
And we were like, and so I kind of look at him, right? I thought he was just being kind of facetious or something. And I'm like, right on, man. Yeah, that's cool. And he goes, yeah. No, really. Get the fuck out. And we're like, so I look over at our host, and I'm like, hey man, can we look at the time? You know, can we get going? After we played Finland, we were gonna play this gig in Estonia, and I forget the name of the Estonian band that played, but they were pretty good, man. And so we played this Estonian show in Tallinn. When we took a ferry from Helsinki, Finland to Tallinn, Estonia. When we got picked up in Estonia, this taxi driver picks us up in this old 70s limousine, and he's got a bottle of vodka, and he's just making U's in the street shit. The inside of the limo is all dirty and shit. We're just punk rock, bro. And then so we played this gig in Estonia, and afterward, it was like some biker bar, and we come walking out of this bar, and there's these skinheads against the wall, and there's these other skinheads with like knives to them, right?
What the fuck?
I didn't want no part of that, but I asked our host, I'm like, what was going on there? And they're like, yeah, those guys against the wall, they were like Russian skinheads, and the Finnish don't like them.
Oh, shit.
I was like, okay, yeah, let's look at the time.
You're right. Right.
It's like a part of besides my like drugs and stuff like that. That was another thing, man. Is like my addiction to excitement. Like putting myself in dangerous situations,
Sure.
even though I'm not necessarily a dangerous dude. Like, you know what I mean? I put myself in those situations constantly, man.
Sure, man.
You know?
Yeah, when you're on a destructive path, you look for anything destructive. Actually, speaking of addictions, I wanted to talk to you about your drug use and everything. Now, I'm sure that was, even though you were still doing it during you with the skinheads and that, I'm sure it's pretty subdued to what it was afterwards, yeah?
Yeah. So, you know, it was definitely in use, especially in the early years of being a skinhead. And then I did take a little hiatus and went straight to alcohol and weed for a good few years, but, you know, it's still using and stuff. And then how I got really back into my addiction was
Of the interview with Tommy. Part 2 will be coming up next week, next Sunday, of course. More wild stories, even crazier than part 1. You won't believe it. Make sure you come and check it out. Thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you being here as always. And if you want to keep supporting me and supporting the channel, there's many different ways you can do it. All the links are in the description below. But if you can just give this video a big like, subscribe down below and hit the little bell to get notified, and you'll be seeing new videos from me each week. And if you're around in about 10 minutes, as a bonus, I have a live stream starting. Sunday sesh with Brad. Come over and check it out. Come say hi. Hang out with some good people and have a good yarn. See you all there. Have a great week, everyone. Peace out and love and light to you.